Never, never, never give up. Welcome back, boys and girls. Joseph James here, School of Trade, Sideways Markets. Welcome back to your nightly newsletter. Today is the 5th of March, 2014. And as my good friend Winston Churchill once said, never, never, never give up. And boy, was that the quote, was that the theme of today's trade room. What a great day. Hope you guys had a wonderful Wednesday, hump day here in the U.S. We had inventories today from Crude. Crude falls out of bed today. Gold going sideways. Russell going sideways. We saw this coming. We made some great money today in our trade room. We also gave you guys some great trades to consider last night in the newsletter. So today we'll talk about what happened last night. We'll talk about the trades that we called last night on the newsletter. We'll talk about what happened today, some of the news today, a little bit of this day in history, and then we're going to go forward getting ready for a very busy and important day tomorrow in the markets on a Thursday, the day before non-farm payrolls. So first, rewind the tape, go back 24 hours ago. Let's remember what I said 24 hours ago sitting here at this same desk. We talked about what? We talked about crude oil, the fact that we had inventories scheduled for today. Crude oil inventory is very important. What did we say yesterday evening? We talked about crude oil having inventories at 10:30. And what did we say? Expect it to be range bound, right, early in the session, but then look for that move after 10:30. Now, we didn't know it was going to go up or down, but boy, if you took my advice today, if you waited patiently until after 10:30, what did you get? You got rewarded by a nice big bam, drops like a rock here this morning at about 10:45. So last night I told you, be aware of the inventory number 15 minutes before, 15 minutes after. If you took that advice, you were able to get short on crude today at 10:45 and you made a killing. On last night's newsletter, we gave you guys guidance on crude oil to sell at 102.62. Yeah, I would say that made a little bit of profit. 102.62 down to 101.02. That's $1.50 move. Guys, that's $1,500 per contract. Make sure you guys watch tonight's part number 2 as we go over the charts for tomorrow. Because if you grabbed that crude trade with us today, you made some great money. Gold. Gave you last night on gold, a buy at 33.3, a profit target at 40. That was the winner last night. And of course, Russell, remember what I said about yesterday? Russell had that huge 400 tick move yesterday. We talked about this. We were expecting to see a range bound day today on Russell. We made a killing today, buying lows, selling highs, buying lows, selling highs. It was easy. If you knew what to look for, you saw the opening print today on the Russell inside the range. Combine that with yesterday's wide range on the Russell, all-time highs, 1,200 big round number. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on about why we were projecting a range-bound market on the Russell today. It was easy if you know what you're looking for. So come out and see me tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to take this newsletter tonight and we're going to put it to work tomorrow morning in the live real-time markets. It's easy for me here in hindsight, but come in tomorrow morning. Watch me do it in person. Watch me do it live. So 3 very, very accurate predictions this time last night for today. So far, we're batting a pretty good percentage this week. Markets today, big mover was crude. We knew we were destined for something here with the troops coming out of Russia. Now that whole charade in Russia is somewhat in the past, we kept hearing about sanctions and threats back and forth today. But for the most part, though, this is in the rearview mirror now. And I think somebody said on Monday, just you wait, by the end of the week, we'd be right back below 100. So we're at 100, we'll say 101 right now. And so we're almost back to 100, but we still got non-farm payrolls on Friday. Don't you worry. Get ready for crude. So crude moves 268 ticks today, a monstrous move, down 2.30% at 101.95. So just below when it closed at 2:30 today, it closed just below that 102, 101.95. Gold today, and gold and Russell pretty much had range-bound days today. Gold only moved 93 ticks, Again, this is because of those huge ranges yesterday on gold and Russell. So gold pretty much ends flat, 21 basis points up, nothing to sneeze at. 37.3 where it closed today. The Russell, and we were expecting this on Russell, right? I would have been completely amazed to see the Russell continue going higher today because we made it above all-time highs. We stayed above all-time highs. We made it above 1,200. We stayed above 1,200. The S&P and the NASDAQ can't say that about their all-time highs. So the Russell shows a lot of strength. And I believe at this time, I know we closed at 4 o'clock at 04.6. Yeah, we're still there above that 1,200 right now. You can see that Russell, just straight line trajectory here. You've got crude straight down. And you see gold long-term up, short-term down. We'll call that balanced on gold. So again, we knew something big was coming on crude. I've been saying it for a few weeks now. This, of course, was just a glimmer. It was just a glimpse as to what's the potential here on crude. Gold and Russell had big ranges yesterday, so we know why it was range bound today. The key today, though, was that opening print on the Russell. When we saw the opening print right inside of yesterday's range there on the Russell, and then we waited for 15 minutes. Remember, the opening print's not written in stone. We then wait 15 minutes after the opening print to see what's going on. Okay, because that's going to confirm what we thought was going to happen from the opening bell. So 15 minutes into 9:30, 9:45 this morning, we're seeing slop and chop, slow price action on Russell. And at that point, it was easy. We told everyone in the trade room, we're not looking for trends. We're looking for reversals, lower lows, buy it, higher highs, sell it. And we just kept going back and forth on Russell. It was relatively easy. But again, you had to know what you were looking for. News today. We actually had quite a bit of news today. We had Adp Employment, ISM non-manufacturing. The big news was crude oil inventories. And of course, we had Beige Book. Adp Employment came out this morning at 8:15, comes in modestly lower, not that bad. They're expecting 150,000 for non-farm payrolls on Friday, and the Adp Employment number is usually a little bit higher than the non-farm payrolls number that comes out the first Friday of each month. So we got the biggest news event that we get as traders that's happening this Friday. That's the non-farm payroll report. So this Friday, non-farm payrolls. Those are the jobs that have been added into the economy. Adp Employment Report, Adp being a very large employment payroll processing company. So they turn over their records, right, to the, I would assume the Department of Labor. And of course, today we saw the Adp Employment Report come in just a little bit lower. This is not a very big news report, but it's used by analysts to kind of project what Friday's non-farm payrolls will be. So we're looking right on track for Friday's non-farm payrolls of 150K. ISM non-manufacturing comes out lower. We continue to see weather being the scapegoat here for manufacturing. Everybody, including Janet Yellen, including the Fed governors in the Beige Book, everybody today basically kicked the can into next month because we had bad weather in December, January, and February, right? Last time I checked, it was still snowing this afternoon. I mean, it's been some really rough weather, and that really has cramped the style of housing, of manufacturing, retail sales. And so right now, all these news events are kind of given a pass for one more month. And we keep kicking this can down the road before we start dealing with these taper talks again. Inventories. Inventories was like shooting fish in a barrel this morning. Now, go back 24 hours. We talked about the inventory report last night. What did we say last night? We said last night's API number came out with the second consecutive week of a build. That means more inventories. Now, that number is worthless on its own. We compare the API number from last night. We keep that in the back of our minds. This morning, the EIA comes out at 10:30. What came out this morning? Same thing. Higher inventories, but if you listen closely, you heard that they were lower demand. And that was what gave me the green light this morning to tell all 1,000 people in the trade room that we've got a bearish report on our hands and to be looking for shorts. And I don't know. I think we were right about that. Now, you didn't even need to look at that news report. I'll be very honest with you. I talk about the news because I find it very interesting, and I know you find it entertaining. But at the same time, you didn't even need to look at that report. Just wait for 10:45. Who cares about what the news actually said? right? It doesn't really matter. I look at my 10:45 a.m. after that 10:30 news came out, and all you saw was sellers. That was your clue. You don't need to actually look at the news. Look at the price action. As I always say in the trade room, stop worrying about the why, worry about the when and the where. I don't care why the market's dropping, but I need to know when it's dropping and where it's going to. So don't worry so much about the news, all right, as I'm going over the news here. I know. It's interesting. I find it fascinating how the markets work and how the news plays into this, because in my humble opinion, it's the price action that leads the news, not the other way around, right? It may seem like the news leads the price action, but what actually happens is the price action causes us to make bets on certain things. That's what causes news to change. News then comes out, and then, of course, there's a short-term impact on the price action. But there's only two real news events that have long-term impacts on price action. What were they again? Anybody remember out there? We got one on Friday. That's right. Friday's non-farm payrolls. And then we get another one next month. Carry the one 8 times a year. I know. Luckily, I'm not a math teacher. 8 times a year, we get the FOMC meeting, right? So there's 2 news reports that you really do have to pay attention to. Non-farm payrolls and FOMC report, right? Those are the only 2. 8 times a year for FOMC, and every month, the first Friday of every month is non-farm payrolls. Those are the only 2 that really matter. Crude inventories, very important, but could I do without it? Absolutely. I could just watch the chart and say, it's after 10:30. I wonder who's in control right now. You're going to see it right away. Either you see the trend or you don't. It's very simple. If it starts trending, I follow that trend. If it's not trending, sideways, buy lows, sell highs, buy lows, sell highs. Simple. Beige book today at 2 o'clock. Again, more references to this atypical bad weather. Even Janet Yellen mentioned it today in her official swearing in. 8 out of the 12 districts for the beige book. Now remember, the beige book, there are 12 different Federal Reserve districts around the country. This is a digital book now. It used to be a physical book. That's why they call it the beige book. It's funny, whenever I think of the beige book, I was born in the 80s. And of course, the color of the 80s was beige. And I can just imagine, I close my eyes and I picture the house that I kind of was born in, when I was a real young kid. Everything's beige, right? Everything is beige. And so whenever I see the word beige book, I always think back and think, was it really beige? Do you think it was really beige? Or was it more like a maroon, tannish mix? I'm kidding around with you. So bad weather, but 8 out of the 10, this is pretty interesting, 8 out of the 10 districts reported growth. So the 8 out of the 10 districts around the U.S. have reported growth. There were 2 districts that basically said weather was completely raining on their parade. It was really dampening the atmosphere, and 2 districts were on the fence. But really, though, a lot of the news today, though, from Janet Yellen, from the Beige Book, everybody pretty much repeated the same thing. We're not going to talk about tapering. We're not going to investigate interest rates anymore until we get through this month, get to next month. I guess we'll keep waiting to see when this bad weather kind of falls off the radar and we can actually take some of these news reports seriously when it comes to taper talk from the Fed. This day in history. So we got news today, big news today. But again, all eyes are pretty much focused on getting that weather off the radar and into Friday's non-farm payroll. This day in history, a pretty light day in history, right? If I may say so myself. Nothing like we've seen already this week. 1770, March 5th, 1770, the Boston Massacre occurs. This was a pre-revolution. This really got the U.S. worked up. And if you recall, the U.S. was just a toddler at that time, trying to shrug off the rule, right, of the Brits. And so at this point, the Boston Massacre, remember what happened? There were British troops in Boston, and there were some gangs, right? The gangs were antagonizing the troops, right? So, of course, the British troops, what do? They fire into a crowd of people. They kill 5 or 6 people, I think it was. 3 or 4 died right away. But that was the catalyst that led to the revolution, right? That led to us going to war to fight the Brits, right? To fight the British controlling. And, of course, the rest is history. March 5th, 1946, Winston Churchill delivers his famous Iron Curtain speech about the USSR. My boy, Winston Churchill, right? A British commander general. He was an artist. He was a poet, known as being one of the great wartime leaders. And he was one of the biggest leaders, right, of the generation, right? March 5th, 1963, the hula hoop is patented. I thought this was pretty cool. The hula hoop, right, that thing around your waist. You get the hula hoop that later on, that same company produced the boomerang, the slingshot, the frisbee. It was kind of funny because the hula hoop is one of the best-selling retail products of our existence. It sold 25 million in 4 months. Now, 25 million, that's a lot for today. Imagine yourself in 1963. That's a whole lot of hula hoops, right, to be sold there. So the U.S. Patent for the hula hoop. And then 1997, after 25 years of no communication, North and South Korea representatives meet. First time in 25 years for peace talks. Pretty darn cool. Pretty darn cool. So this day in history gets some interesting topics there for you guys. Boston Massacre, Winston Churchill, the hula hoop. Pretty fun stuff there. How about tomorrow? Let's get ready for Thursday. This is the Thursday before non-farm payrolls. So we know, first of all, tomorrow, Thursday before non-farm payrolls, remember, tomorrow afternoon is going to be a sleeper. Okay, I warned you. Don't say I didn't warn you. Tomorrow afternoon is going to be a sleeper. Why? Because large traders, right, the big money out there, the elephants that we refer to, they can't place their bets tomorrow afternoon and still try to get out of those trades before Friday's non-farm payroll is released. So what happens is you've got traders that are managing their positions, getting out of open positions that will be affected by Friday's non-farm payroll. So Thursday morning should be a great morning. But Thursday afternoon, just be aware, probably going to be a little bit lower volume. A lot more traders will be sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what Friday's non-farm payroll comes out at. Starting here first, though, 3 a.m. tomorrow morning, we've got out of Great Britain the home price index. 7 a.m. tomorrow, we've got the Bank of England rate announcement. You're going to see we got a couple of those tomorrow. So if you're a European-based trader, be aware tomorrow, starting at 7 a.m. and then 7:45 a.m., we've got the Bank of England at 7 o'clock, and we've got the ECB at 7:45. Now, the ECB rate announcement is a big one. In fact, that's probably why gold is sitting sideways here right now. 7:45, we have the ECB's rate announcement. Be aware that's going to affect almost every currency tomorrow. It's going to affect gold. So be aware tomorrow, 7 o'clock till about 8:30 in the morning. Be aware. Don't be surprised if gold goes bonkers at 7:45 because of the ECB rate announcement. I'm not expecting to see a change in rates tomorrow morning, but we always know that press conference is very, very important. Then, of course, we have the headline news tomorrow, jobless claims here in the U.S., 8:30 a.m., followed by factory orders at 10 o'clock, and then we got the nat gas inventories tomorrow at 10:30. So, as always, a very busy day on the economic schedule. So be ready tomorrow morning early. Be ready for the headline news tomorrow at 8:30 from jobless claims. Factory orders tomorrow at 10 o'clock will be huge for crude traders. And then, of course, we got those natty gas traders out there tomorrow. Inventories on natural gas at 10:30. Remember, guys, like I said, we got non-farm payrolls on Friday. So tomorrow, Thursday afternoon, will be a little bit of a sleeper. So be aware of that. I'm very curious what happens tomorrow morning on crude. I've got some levels that I'm waiting for tomorrow. I'm also curious to see what happens with you-know-who, with the Russell. Are we going to keep going higher tomorrow, or are we going to pull back tomorrow? We'll have to wait and see what happens tomorrow. Gold is a complete crapshoot right now because we had to wait for tomorrow morning's ECB announcement and see where that goes, right? Because the ECB announcement affects interest rates. Interest rates, right, of course, affect currencies. Currencies affect commodities like gold and silver. You get it, right? So we're going to wait tomorrow morning to see what that comes out at 7:45. And then tomorrow afternoon, we're sitting on hands waiting for non-farm payrolls. We have had an incredible week this week. Monday, we gap up. Tuesday, we gap down. Wednesday, we fall out of bed. What could be coming on Thursday? Now, backed by popular demand, I'm going to continue with our chart review here in the evenings. I tried to wean off of it. I've only got 24 hours in my day, just like you do. But I want to thank you for your feedback because I heard your feedback and it sounds like you guys really appreciate those charts every evening. So stick around. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's open up some charts and let's get ready for tomorrow. Alrighty? Don't drop off now. Don't go leaving me now. You've been with me so far. We got some money to make tomorrow. Open those charts up and let's see what we got ready for Thursday morning. Let's keep going. All right, kids, let's keep going here this evening. Once again, I thank you so much for your feedback, all of your great feedback. It was very clear to me that you wanted to continue with the chart prep each evening. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose one market each evening, crude, gold, Russell, and I'm going to do a featured video on that market that evening. Then the rest of the markets, I'm going to upload all of the material for our members at School of Trade, and it will be included in the daily recap. Every day I record the entire trade room, and I'm going to add this analysis to that recording. All right, so if you're not a member of mine, you'll get one of the 3 markets every evening. If you are a student of School of Trade, you'll get all 3. Let's get going. First things first, let's jump right in here for crude, and we'll take a look at the VIP chart. Now, just like we expected, you look back in time here, you can see how kind of this whole thing played out. Over the weekend, this weekend, there was the jump up thanks to the little snafu we had in Russia, Crimea, right, Ukraine. Then, of course, Putin backs off his threats, takes the troops out of Ukraine, and here we go, back down. We go back below the prior week high, and today we opened up at the lows, and sure enough, sat for a little bit. After 10:30, though, it was all to the downside. It was very easy pickings today on crude if you knew what you were looking for. Moving forward here. Today we saw a lower 2-day relationship, a very wide range, a close near the lows, and volume in the middle. So this morning, we opened up inside, dropped out, and tumbled. So 2-day relationship is lower. The range wider than normal. You'll see it's a wider range than we normally see. Now a wide range today usually means a much more narrow range tomorrow. So think about what happened today on the Russell. The Russell did what today? The Russell went range bound all day today. Why? Because of the huge range we saw yesterday. So big range yesterday, narrow range today. Big range today, narrow range tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to expect to see a narrower range tomorrow. No guarantee yet. I'm going to wait for tomorrow morning's opening bell. And I'm going to make my educated guess after I see the first 15 minutes of the market. The closing print today, down near the lows. When we have the closing print near the lows like this, it tells us the sellers were in charge when they finished the session today. Oftentimes what happens is on a big sell-off like this, you'll see price will rebound at the end, which basically tells us that we have a short covering rally, right? Short sellers took profit. Well, not the case here right now. Apparently the sellers on crude saw no reason to take their profit. So I would expect tomorrow to see more of these falling prices on crude. Now we do have a little bit of a clue here. You'll notice we've got 3 different areas where we had a lot of volume build up on this chart. We had volume that came in at the lows, volume that came in at the highs, but the majority of the volume really was right above 102. You can see over here 102. So what I would think is this is screaming at you bearish. But with all that volume above 102, tomorrow morning's opening print is going to be really important. If we open tomorrow above 102, now that bearishness gets wiped off the table. If we open tomorrow below 102, then absolutely the bears are still in charge and we should be looking for selling opportunities tomorrow. Okay, so 102, and this is just an eyeball for me. I'm not, there's really not a lot of concrete evidence, but when I look at the volume here, I can see that it puts me just above 102. So if we get a volume above 102, that tells me the majority of traders were participating above 102, We did have a closing print at the lows, though, so that tells me we should see prices going lower tomorrow. Now, if we open up below 103.22, open up above 103.22, we're bullish. Open up below 101.22, we are bearish. So be ready for that tomorrow. Remember, everything I talk about here all depends on two things tomorrow morning. One, where is the opening bell? And two, what happens the first 15 minutes of the day? Those are the two important things tomorrow I'm going to be looking at to see whether or not we're bullish, bearish, or range bound tomorrow morning on crude. This morning, we saw the first 15 minutes were very, very range bound. Like I told you guys yesterday on this newsletter, wait till after 10:30. After 10:30, the news came out, and it drops out of bed, right? Falls out of bed. So today it was pretty easy, but you had to be ready for it today on crude. Now, if I go higher here, I have levels at 103.78, 104.47, and 105.22. If we go lower, I have important levels at 165, 100.03, and 99.26. So an opening print below, I'm looking to sell short. I've got targets here listed below. We go above, I'm looking to buy. I've got targets above. Now we're ready for tomorrow. Let's keep moving. Let's take a glimpse here at my anchor chart. This is my 55 anchor, my slowest time frame. Now, what I always do is I always have a series of time frames. So I'll choose to use a 2, an 8, a 32, and then I'll jump up from there, right? A 55 or an 89, right? Those are fib numbers. These first three, this is a sequence: entry, anchor, anchor. And then I use a much slower time frame to kind of get a bird's eye view of what's happening out there. And as you can see right now on crude, we have a test of the 105, but then that price just collapsed like nobody's business. So we tested the 105. I drew this nice little trend line here so we know where that is. We get resistance here for tomorrow. But the big number now is right here, 98.09. That's the next major support level that we're gunning for now. Remember, I told you, just you wait. Once this little snafu boils, kind of calms down in Russia, we're going to see this price come right back to where we began. We were down at 90.95 only 60 days ago. So this can easily get pretty fun tomorrow if this thing keeps dropping. But 98.09 is where I expect to see the dust settle if we keep selling off tomorrow morning. I don't think we're going to have another big day down like this tomorrow, but I hope I'm wrong, right? I hope I'm wrong. Whether I'm filling up the gas tank or shorten it in the trade room, I hope I'm wrong. So here's my 21. Now here's where we have a little bit of a challenge. I've identified some key levels of support on this 21. And the tough part is we've had this huge trend channel going for the last 2 weeks. So this now is shaking everything up here. And as you can see here, I've got nothing here. I can't exactly draw any trend lines yet. So there's no support. There's no resistance there. I've got a level down here at 142. So that's where we should be headed to next. If you remember last night, I gave you guys the 101.02. Remember this last night, the 101.02? That was that target that I gave you guys. Well, sure enough, it hit that target at 101.02. So now here's the dilemma. I want to get short, but what do I know? I got to sell at a premium. So ideally, I want to sell up at this premium price, 103.07, but I think we can do better than that. I think we can do a lot better than that. And again, as I zoom out on this 21, you can see here we've got a long ways to go here to get right back to where we began, down around that 91, 90.95. So first stop here is at 142 to 99.81. But guys, again, if I'm going to be a seller right now, I have a very hard time being a seller right here. My job to be a seller right now is going to be to wait for price to come off these lows so I can sell it at a premium and then use this as a profit target here at 142. So 142, that's my profit target for the shorts right now. That's where we should be headed next on crude. But again, you got to be a little bit crazy right now to be just selling short right off the bat right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a retracement. And I've identified a couple here on the 13 anchor chart. I'm looking at 102.19 and 102.96. These are two very easy to find levels that I'm going to be looking for. As you can see, literally the last major swing high that we got was at 103. Everything else has just been whoop, 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 right? It's just dropping out of bed here. So we need to get some sort of retracement here so I can find a more comfortable place to get short. You can see here below us, we got that 130, all right? That big round number at 100 even is what I'm shooting for here tomorrow if we see this thing continue to sell off. We should start seeing some more opportunities though, but again, I can't get short right now. I've got to get this price to come off these lows. I would love to sell this 102.19, but I don't quite know if we're going to get up there overnight. Whenever we have a big drop like this during the daytime session, we usually see a really sideways, range-bound market overnight. So don't be surprised if we see this thing go sideways here. Now, if we go sideways here, mark the low, mark the high, buy the low, sell the high overnight. Another thing would be, if we go sideways here right now, if we break new lows, use this low as your guide for the entry. So look to take a retracement trade to sell at a premium. So again, wait for this price to make a low, make a high. If it goes sideways here overnight, mark up that low and use that low as your guide to getting in short. So what I'll do is I'll wait for price to make a new lower low. I'm not selling the lows though, guys. You know that. Wait for it to retrace off that low, and then members, grab yourselves a wave pattern short, a double top short, okay, to get short here along with the long-term trend. All right. Again, I would love to get short at 102.19, 102.96, but I just don't think it's going to happen here overnight. I think we're going to have to wait tomorrow and see what the opening bell looks like. And I've given you guys those levels for tomorrow. Now, one last time, just to remind you, I got your feedback. I'm going to continue to review the charts every evening, but every evening I'm going to do one of the three markets that we specialize in: gold, crude, Russell. This evening I did crude. All right, I'll switch it up tomorrow. And then the other markets, if you're a member of mine, I'm not going to leave you hanging. You guys deserve the best. So I'm going to give you all of my analysis in this evening's download. As you guys know, if you're a member of mine, every evening I post the recorded session from the trade room, the recorded training session, and all the notes from today. Now you're going to see another download in there for tonight's newsletter. I always love your feedback, so thank you for sending me your feedback. You guys spoke, I listen, and I always want to be improving this newsletter. Don't forget, head right on over to our homepage, take the free trial at School of Trade, and while you're there, don't forget, you can register for our newsletter on the homepage of School of Trade. We have had an incredible week so far here, the first week of March. I hope you guys and gals have made some money along with us. We're learning, we're earning. It doesn't get much better than this, guys. We're even having some fun along the way. So thanks for watching the newsletter tonight. Take care of yourself and your family. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. I open up my live trade room. I expect to see you guys there. We got some more money to make. And remember, you got to learn this stuff so you can earn with this stuff. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.